We sell the movie at Sundance to Fox Searchlight. Fox Searchlight was a brand new company. McMullen was the first film they ever bought, first film they ever distributed. And then I give them the script to She's the One at Sundance. And a week later, that movie's greenlit. So when I come out to LA for the first time in my life, I've sold a movie and I'm now having meetings about how we're going to make this.
I don't think I knew that about She's the One. That's wild.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
Hello and welcome to Movie Town, the Revival Cinema Scene show. A very special episode. Today I'm joined by writer, director, actor, novelist, Ed Burns. Ed, thanks so much for joining me on Movie Town.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. A big reason, I reached out, and I think it's such an interesting time to talk to you because you have the Family McMullen that just came out on HBO.
Premiered,
yeah. And it's 30 years since, the Brothers McMullen originally came out. And so you kind of have these bookends, both, to that story, because you've picked up three of the same characters 30 years later, and just kind of this really interesting career in film and now, novels. There's kind of so much to jump into.
Yep.
But I think even with the Family McMullen, how did it come to kind of focus, because the three characters that you follow from Brothers McMullen are yourself, Connie Britton, and Michael McGlone. And how did you was it that those two actors have kind of stayed acting the most, or how did you write to those, choose those characters?
Well, it's a long story, sort of how this film came to be. So I'll give you the long version if that's all right.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, I see Richard Linklater's Before Midnight.
Right, yeah.
Right, sort of the third film in his trilogy.
Right.
The thing that was interesting for me was Before Sunrise was at Sundance when I was at Sundance in 95 with McMullen.
Okay, wow.
That was the opening night film.
Oh,
so I remember sitting in the audience as a kid who was on the outside, right, seeing Redford introduce him and him introduce the film, and then loving the movie and then staying for the Q&A afterwards. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. That's the career I want. Right? Because Slacker was one of those films when I'm in film school that inspired me to make Brothers McMullen, because it was made for no budget and just sort of a run and gun kind of three-man crew approach to filmmaking. And then it ends up not only playing at film festivals, getting distribution, and Linklater then gets a career off of that, right? So that was definitely, one of the models that I looked to. But then, anyhow, so 20 years ago, I see Before Midnight, and I thought, well, maybe I should think about a sequel to McMullen. And I tried to crack it, and I quite honestly, I did not know what to do with those three brothers 20 years after the first film. I could not figure it out. So I kind of just put it down. A few years after that, I read an article about how a lot of 20-something kids who are already out of school in the workplace had started to move back in with their parents just because of the lack of affordable housing, looking to save money before they buy their first homes. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe that's the way in. All right, my character, Barry, he'll have two kids in his 20s, and they'll move back in with him, which I thought that's very much like the first film when me and Mike McGlone moved back in. So I knew that was going to be the starting place. And it's funny, I started to write a version of that script that really primarily focused on Barry.
Okay.
And it was not funny. It was a dark little drama. And again, it was one of the things that was different about writing the film, thinking about McMullen at that point was, when I wrote Brothers McMullen, I'm 23.
Yeah.
It's the early 90s when I write it. And there was so much idealism. These working class kids really felt like, there was nothing but a available future ahead of them.
Right.
When I started to write the second version and focusing them on being a more working class family, that did not feel as true.
Yeah.
Anyhow, there's a long way to say that script was not right for a McMullen sequel. It ended up turning into another film called Beneath the Blue Suburban Skies that'll come out finally in December.
Yeah, because I was trying to find that one to watch, but that
Yeah.
was like the one I kind of couldn't track.
It's a film that, and I just read an article that, I forget the name of the company, but they've kind of collected 5 or 6 films that were going to have theatrical releases that were put on hold because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
So now they're gonna finally release these films theatrically. So our film is going to finally get released in December,
Yeah.
a year from now.
Well,
So anyhow,
okay, so yeah, a year from now. Yeah.
so I abandon that, and then I start to rethink the story. And I've remained very close to Connie Britton. Connie's become a huge star.
Yeah.
So I knew, really, realistically, in order to get the film financed, I need Connie in the movie. And in order to get Connie in the movie, she cannot be a supporting player.
Yeah.
She has to be one of the leads. So that's when I came up with the decision, basically, to make her a widow. And I was like, well, she'll be the third sibling, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started. It took me a couple of years to kind of crack it, to find the right tone and the humor, and 80 different rewrites on this thing.
Yeah.
Originally it was called The Sisters McMullen because, my character, he had 2 daughters.
Okay.
And it was going to be the focus on them. And
Yeah.
then, so like the thing just morphed and changed over
Yeah.
time. But anyhow,
I mean, it's
that's
really
how I ended
interesting,
up with
just
it.
like with Connie Britton, because Brothers McMullen, that was really like her first feature, or
Almost everyone in the cast, with the exception of the actor Jack Mulcahy, who played Jack,
yeah,
none of us had ever stood in front of a camera before.
that's wild.
Some of them had done theater.
Yeah,
Some of them had no experience at all.
yeah,
Had taken acting classes and things, but we were all, I was a production assistant. Connie, I believe, was a waitress. Mike McGlone was tending bar.
yeah.
We were just kids in New York with regular jobs. Nobody was in the union. Nobody had ever worked professionally before. So
I mean, because it's interesting. I watched, I paired them, like watched Brothers McMullen one night, Family McMullen the next. And I mean, maybe, I'm sure there's some psychological element of like, we know Connie Britton from all these, shows and movies through the years, but like, I mean, her performance does jump out in that. And I'm just wondering whether at the time, did people see that, or did you see that?
I mean, we knew it.
Yeah.
2 interesting stories about how, Connie at that time. Connie, I had put an ad in Backstage magazine, non-union film, no pay,
Yeah.
seeking actors.
Right.
It's New York, and we got thousands of headshots.
Yeah.
Mike McGlone was actually the very first guy to audition for me.
Yeah.
There's a funny story because he's great. I'm like, oh, he's perfect for it, but I'm not going to cast the very first guy to audition because, again, I'm a kid who never graduated from film school.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I went to film school. So
Had you made like a short film?
I'd made 2 short
Yeah.
films, but only casting my friends.
And did you act in those?
I did act in
Okay.
those. Yeah. But I didn't have any experience like auditioning people.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, quite honestly.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I can't cast Mike. And, I'm trying to raise money. So this auditioning process is probably going on for like 6 months. I should say months later, I'm on the subway. I'm on the 1 train coming up from the village going to work in the morning. And at 42nd Street, a guy comes onto the subway, sits next to me, and I can feel him eyeballing me as I'm reading my book. And I look over, and he says, hey, are you the guy making that movie about the Irish brothers?
Yeah.
I said, yeah. He goes, well, I auditioned for you. My name's Mike McGlone. What's happening with the movie?
Yeah.
And I remember, he was so great. I felt it was like kismet. I said, you know what? You got the part.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, so you're making the movie? I said, I hope to make the movie. I still got to raise more money.
Yeah.
So
have you, like, actors you've worked with, are either he or Connie like your most frequent collaborators at this point?
no, I mean,
Yeah.
from that first film.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, the kid Pico Alexander.
Right.
He was
was it Summer Days?
Yeah, Summer
Okay.
Days, Summer Nights. He was in that. Sam Bartholomos was the lead in a show I did called Bridge and Tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
Juliana Canfield, I worked with her in an episode of Amazing Stories that we produced. So I typically try and pull actors that I've worked. Like if I work with someone and I love them and I think they're great, and they get like sort of cadence of how I hear my dialogue and how I want my characters to talk. When I find them, then I just start writing for them. So I
Yeah.
wrote that part for Sam. I wrote that part for Pico. So, and obviously I wrote it for Mike and Connie as well.
Yeah.
But Connie, back to her. So we're about halfway through trying to find actors for the movie, and I cannot find anyone to play Molly. And at a certain point, I'm thinking, well, you know what? The scene probably just isn't very good. You know, maybe I just don't know how to write for this woman.
Yeah.
And then Connie comes into audition, and I was like, oh, okay, wow, it's not the scene. You know, it was not to knock these other actors, but like it was clearly like, so we didn't have the actor to come in and do it. And then from that moment on, and I've told Connie this, like every day that Connie was on set, we felt like we were playing with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you have to up your game to play with her.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason she's gone on to the career she's had. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. And I know you mentioned Slacker as kind of being one of these early films. Had Clerks come out yet?
Clerks had not come out.
Or El Mariachi, were those kind of?
El Mariachi came out.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was a production assistant at Entertainment Tonight. And I can remember sitting in the studio very much like this, listening to him talk about the making of that film.
Yeah.
And that being a big thing, like, oh, okay, this can be done. You can make a movie for $25,000. But for me, the big films were Hal Hartley's Unbelievable Truth.
Yeah.
He's a Long Island guy. He made that for $35,000. You know, very different from El Mariachi.
Yeah.
And Slacker. In that was a, you know, let's say stylistically from like a cinematic standpoint, I was like, okay, I think I can pull that off.
Yeah.
And then also Nick Gomez's film Laws of Gravity was another big one for me.
Yeah.
And that was made for about $28,000.
Yeah.
There's also a filmmaker named John Jost who made a movie called All the Vermeers in New York.
Yeah, great.
Great movie. Yeah. That was a 3-man crew. A very interesting article he wrote in The Independent, you know, whenever that was, probably in 90 or 91 that I read. He had this philosophy. He's like, you're going to meet people in the movie business, whether agents, managers, studios, or even people who work on crews. And they're going to tell you, in order to make a film, you need, and they're going to roll through everything you need. He's like, it's all bullshit. You need a camera. And if you choose to have dialogue, you need some device to record sound. Yeah. And that is all you need. Just go out into the streets. And, you know, All the Vermeers was made in New York in the 90s. I'm living, you know, in my shitty little apartment in the Village. And like I read that and I am so inspired. And I'm like, that's what I'm doing. 3-man crew. We're going to figure out how to make a movie on the streets of New York. Yeah. So.
And then what was the jump like? Because it was a pretty fast, like, you know, you have Brothers McMullen and then She's the One gets produced pretty quickly after that. Was that script ready to go, or did you like have the fire of like, oh my God, I need something else now?
Yes, that's another interesting story. So after McMullen gets into Sundance, Ted Hope and James Seamus, who ran Good Machine for years, they came on as producers to help me finish the film because I had no idea. Like, you know, we shot on 16 millimeter. We had to blow it up. Yeah. So they came on to sort of help me finish the movie. Were also enormously helpful in helping me cut out a half hour because I got into Sundance with a 2-hour rough cut. Okay. And I knew I wanted it to get down to about 95 minutes.
So it wasn't a 2-hour cut that showed.
No, we showed the finish, the finished version of the movie. But Seamus said to me, he's like, look, and we didn't think we were going to sell McMullen. Right. You know, I mean, it's this tiny little grainy movie. So the thinking was, you know, when you go to Sundance, those are the 2 weeks where you will be, you know, the hottest you will ever be. Yeah. There tends to be a feeding frenzy at Sundance. So if you have another project, the likelihood is you might leave the festival with your next script greenlit. So we get in November, and I have 2 months to write a screenplay. So because I'm not thinking we'll sell McMullen, I write what I think is a funnier version of Brothers McMullen. Yeah. And I replace the older brother with John Mahoney, with Jack. With the father character. Yeah. And that was kind of...
because they definitely have these like tendrils between them
without a
feel
doubt.
Like they're, you know.
Yeah, I just tried to make kind of like, at that time I had really gotten into sort of Neil Simon and also John Patrick Shanley's screenplay for Moonstruck. Okay. And I just kind of liked that exaggerated reality and that quicker banter dialogue that those writers played with. So that's what I was trying to do with She's the One. Anyhow, long story short, we sell the movie at Sundance to Fox Searchlight. Fox Searchlight was a brand new company. McMullen was the first film they ever bought, first film they ever distributed. And then, you know, I give them the script to She's the One at Sundance. And a week later, that movie's greenlit. So when I come out to LA for the first time in my life, I've sold a movie and I'm now having meetings about how we're going to make this.
I don't think I knew that about She's the One. That's wild.
It's a crazy story.
And then what was it like day one on the set? Like now you have, I mean, just from what I assume from the look of that movie and the way it's shot, it's like a sizable crew.
Oh no, it's a you know, like a $3 million movie in '95 was, I don't know what, probably $6-8 million movie now. So like a proper, you know,
and Jennifer Aniston, Cameron Diaz.
But Jennifer and Cameron at the time were not Jennifer and Cameron. I think Jennifer
had The Mask not come out.
The Mask was out, but again, she wasn't like known from that at that point. And then Jennifer, I think it was only after one season of Friends.
Oh wow, that's
so like people knew who she was, but like they obviously they weren't. You know, they
looking
quite
back,
honestly, would they have signed on to do a $3 million movie?
Yeah. Well, because Leslie Mann and Amanda Peet.
Peet,
incredible cast.
Killer cast in that movie.
And I guess because Brothers McMullen has, you know, your character's plot line, you are a screenwriter in it who's like on the cusp of having a first break.
Yeah.
And so you're almost like willing this to happen in your life, you know, and I mean, you know, was it, I guess, I'm even just, as I like sort of play it out in my head, it's like, that's so surreal.
It was like, it was, I mean, and then, you know, like the first day on set is a scene that not only am I also acting in.
Yeah.
All right. So I've only acted at that point in my films with our tiny little crews, you know, McMullen. Now I have to, like, I know I'm acting in front of 75 people.
Yeah.
All right. While also directing a crew of 75 people. I've only directed a crew of 3 people prior to that. And the first scene is a scene at JFK where like my character is picking up the Hope character at the airport.
Yeah.
So like we've got a section of the terminal closed off, but it's still open for business. So it's like that was about as high pressure day one as you could have. And I was a kid. I was 27.
Yeah.
You know.
And what does it feel like? I mean, are you able to look back at that? And now that you've, you know, I should have said Family McMullen is your 15th feature.
Yeah.
And like, and you've shot now, you know, larger budget films. You've gone back and shot super low budget. You've kind of shot, you know, something in between. Like,
we did a couple of TV shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how has it been? Like looking back over how different, like the productions are. Do you see like some line or?
It's funny, you know, I think there are 2 buckets of the size of projects that we've done. You know, the micro budget McMullen style, which is something that I really never thought I would go back to or really wanted to go back to. Like it's hard to make a movie.
Yeah.
You know, McMullen we made 12 days over the course of 8 months. So like if you look at the film now and you'll see like there are sequences where like Mike McGlone leaves the house on Long Island and he's got short hair and a green tie on. You know, 6 months later, we shoot the next sequence where he's on the Long Island Railroad. His hair's like much longer and he's got a blue tie on. Then he's running through the streets of Manhattan and he's got medium length hair and like an orange tie on. Like we have no continuity. Everyone's just wearing their own shit. But, you know, that was I would have said then, that's only the kind of thing you would do when you're 25 years old and you don't know any better. But years later, I made 2 films. One was called The Groomsman, and then one called Purple Violets that I wrote and directed, and neither film worked at the box office. I mean, like really, they got decent reviews. I got some shitty reviews, but we also got some really good reviews. But they just didn't work. I mean, we ended up doing a cool experiment with Purple Violets. We were the first film that Apple ever released straight to their service.
Right. And was it at that time? Did they Do you know, did they look at it as like, oh wow, this was like something we have to do more of?
I don't know what their thing was, but I
Yeah.
knew that they now, at that point when they launched sort of the movie or I guess the digital side, you know,
Yeah.
iTunes Music had been up. Yes, I guess
Yeah.
movies was next. You could buy older films the way, you
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like a digital blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
But when we, you know, we got a couple of distribution offers for Purple Violets, but they were part of that, which still exists today, sadly, the no advance partnership.
Okay.
Basically, we will give you no money for your movie. So
Yeah.
your investors don't get whole. We'll be partners 50-50. We'll release your film. And at the end of the day, quite honestly, you're never going to see Shineol.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Hollywood accounting
Yeah.
being what it is, you never see any profits if the films do make a profit.
Yeah.
So we were like, well, we've done that and we don't need to do that again. So I was just trying to think of what's an alternative way to try and reach an audience. And like I said, iTunes just launched this. So on a whim, we reached out and said, hey, we have a film. Would you ever want to put on your service, you know, an original movie that hasn't been seen anywhere else? And iTunes said yes. So we were the first one. And it turned out to be like a great success for us and our investor.
Yeah.
And we definitely reached a much wider audience than had we tried to do your typical, you know, 2006 platform release.
Yeah. And do you think, you know, since then, have you kind of written to that, you know, since like these kind of, you know, adult dramas, dramedies that, you know, kind of the world of your films lives in, do you think you've kind of written to that and see that as where most of the movies, like even as you're writing, you think, okay, this is probably going this way versus trying to write something, you know, bigger or something that you say, oh, this is definitely a theatrical film.
Well, it's interesting. It sort of ties into kind of the question about sort of the two buckets of size movies we do. You right? So like after McMullen, then I'm getting to make. I keep saying we because Aaron, my producing partner, is here, right? So we've been together forever. But like, you know, we were making films with more, let's say, proper sized budgets. She's the One, Sidewalks of New York, Rooms and Purple Violets, right? After Purple Violets, I was like, I wanted to get away from these films, right?
Yeah.
Sort of these character comedy dramas about, you know, people I know, and wanted to move into sort of bigger films. And I had an idea I wrote a script called Stooley that was sort of a Elmore Leonard-esque crime film. Very different from me.
Yeah.
And we tried to go out to the marketplace with it. We had it, I think at the time, maybe an $18 million budget. We quickly knocked that down to 15, to 10, to 8, to 5, and then down to 2.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and make it for $2 million and came out here to LA to the only, you know, financier that was willing to make it. And we had this crazy, weird meeting up in the hills with a company that made some kind of like soft porn or something. You know, it was really weird. And, you know, they were dictating to me, you know, how I was going to shoot the film and the approach. And then, of course, well, there is this young actress who we want in the lead. And, you know, she was on a couple of the posters there. And we were like, okay, well, you know, let's give it some thought. And Aaron Lubin, my producing partner, and I would go back to the hotel and have a drink at the bar. And we're like, how the fuck did it come to this?
Yeah.
You know, like 10, 11 years ago.
Right.
You know, the Sundance kid, if you will, coming out of that with McMullen and She's the One. And we're like, we were not making the movie with them. And we knew we kind of couldn't make it for $2 million. So what we did was like, all right, well, look, McMullen was my most successful film to date. So why don't we just try and do that again? So on a napkin at the bar, we wrote down, do you remember like Dogma 95?
Sure,
that whole like sort of rules. We came up with our McMullen 2.0.
Yeah.
And we wrote like $25,000 budget to get it in the can. Unknown actors.
Yeah.
Only using locations that we could get for free. 3-man crew.
Yeah. And so what were the movies that came
So
from
that we made Nice Guy Johnny.
Yeah.
And then that ended up like doing really well for us.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Oh, really? Thank you.
I still remember, I don't, did that come like straight on demand or iTunes?
We did so after the iTunes thing, then
Yeah.
we're like, oh, this is kind of interesting, trying to find these new ways to release these small movies.
Yeah.
So we did a deal with, I believe, Comcast at the time,
Okay.
who was starting to do a kind of like an indie art house. I forget what they called them. Is it envelope on the on demand? It was like indie new releases.
Yeah.
So we did like a deal with them. So they did a ton of promotion for that film.
Yeah.
And that really worked.
Yeah, because I definitely, that was one that I like bought on demand.
Okay,
and was
yeah.
like paying enough attention where I think I heard about how it was being released.
Yeah.
And it was like I was out of film school at that point and doing some production stuff. So it was really tuned into that.
Yeah.
And then, whereas I don't think I'd been as tuned into, Purple Violets coming out and the one right before that.
Groomsmen, yeah.
Groomsmen, yeah. Well, what was interesting though, because you had already done Looking for Kitty, which was a version of that I didn't even realize was, it was shot on like the camera that was really popular when I was in film school, that Panasonic DVX, but you put primes on it.
Well,
and
that's primes on that had this like weird oscillating glass filter that you could put between that video camera lens and a prime lens. And it gave it a more filmic look.
Yeah, because it's still, like most of it, like there's occasionally some scenes that are like, oh yeah, it reads a little more like video or something, but a lot of it looks so good, still. And
where did you find that movie? I don't think it's available anywhere. Where'd you get a DVD?
I got a DVD.
Oh my God. Yeah, and that terrible artwork they put on it.
But what I did love about this DVD, there's this director's letter. Do you remember writing this?
No. What the?
And I found it. I had just found this movie recently and got the DVD because, this one wasn't on streaming. So I ordered fairly inexpensive off eBay. But I love the director's letter in here where essentially you're talking about how you went out and made this movie and kind of giving it's a little bit of a manifesto of, go make movies. You can make movies like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And
we made that one for $250,000.
Yeah. And
another
I found
like 15-day shoot.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've like no recollection of that. But my signature's on it, so it must be me.
Yeah. It's so funny because it reminds me, when I read this and watched Looking for Kitty, it reminded me, kind of different tone and worlds, but like Sean Baker made these like early movies in New York on the street. And I was like, God, I feel like, oh, this is what he was reading or watching, something. He was kind of that generation that came from that. And I was kind of around then too. So it's really interesting. But yeah, so, and when you go to sit down to write something, are you thinking as the idea is coming, oh, it's kind of this Brothers McMullen 2.0, or it's more something like Family McMullen that's a little bit more of a crew? You're already kind of thinking that?
After Nice Guy Johnny, we were like, okay, that worked. And we actually, like, because I self-financed that movie, we actually made some money. So I was like, well, let's just do that again. So then we made a movie called Newlyweds.
Yeah.
Which we shot
with the same actress from...
Exactly, Carrie Bechet.
Right,
and we did that on a Canon 5D.
Okay, yeah.
We got it in the can for $7,000.
Yeah.
Like that was probably the most fun I've had making one of those micro budget movies, because like really primarily available light, shooting in restaurants that were open for business. Like we kind of treated it like the way you shoot reality TV.
Yeah.
Right. But we tried to give it a more filmic look in our composition.
Yeah.
And Will Rexer, who's my longtime DP, that's a little different than the guys who are shooting reality TV. Not to knock those guys and what they do, or those folks.
Well, yeah, reality TV is incredible for what they're doing.
For what they're doing.
But like the technical stuff is like crazy. I look at the editing and stuff all the time. I'm like, God, these guys are incredible. But yeah, it's its own thing.
So, that was even more successful than Nice Guy Johnny.
Yeah.
It was like served us really well. Then we made a movie called Fitzgerald Family.
Right. Yeah. Was that based on your first TV show? Or was it just the Fitzgerald name?
I just used the name. Just used the name. We liked it. We liked
too good of an Irish name to not reuse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's my middle name.
Okay.
So that's kind of why we did that. And that was another one that did well. And then we made those 3 films in 3 years. And it's funny, like I was absolutely in director's jail
Yeah.
when we're trying to get that film Stooley made.
Yeah.
We go and make 3 micro budget movies over the course of 3 years, and then you're kind of back,
Yeah.
right? And I think the next thing is that when we get approached about doing a television show.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that Public Morals?
That's
or-
Public Morals, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Bridge and Tunnel was after.
And then Bridge and Tunnel was after that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess like my show is mostly about like old movies, like people still going out to see old movies. So I do want to, before I kind of, because I still want to get into some acting stuff and other things. But like, what was your movie going like growing up and like discovering old movies? Was it in the theater, on TV at that time of like in the 70s and then early 80s, I guess, is when I'm thinking of like that period for you.
Yeah, I definitely am not a cinephile as a kid.
Yeah.
I am a kid who goes to the movies on a Friday night with his friends.
Yeah.
Prior to that, my mom, again, loved movies, but I don't think she would have considered herself a cinephile. But like, she always took us. Like one of my earliest memories with her is seeing the film Breaking Away.
Yeah.
Which I loved, And again, for us, like my memory of that is, and I don't remember what year it comes out, but like we grew up real working class.
Yeah.
And seeing those guys on screen as these working class kids are the heroes.
Yeah.
Definitely was like identified with those kids, and certainly Dennis Quaid in that movie, like you just wanted to be Dennis Quaid.
And I forget the real cyclist, the guy who's faking the Italian accent the whole time. I mean, my dad introduced me to that movie.
Yeah.
Like at a point when I was not into old movies, but it was like slowly, it was like getting exposed to some of those kind of movies that like broke. I was like, oh yeah, there's a lot like this whole history kind of.
Yeah, I think I'm in high school, probably where I start to think about movies differently.
And is that because like VHS is becoming
VHS,
a thing?
you're renting movies, and I see Spike Lee, She's Gotta Have It.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my first memory of kind of the indie scene that was starting to happen. And then I can't really, trying to think what would be the next, certainly Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Yeah.
I remember in '89.
Yeah.
I'm already at film school there, so I'm kind of I'm starting to.
You've already got.
I'm doing my education.
Okay.
I got into the film business primarily because I was an English major, wasn't doing well at school. My advisor pulled me in and said, "Look, we're going to put you on academic probation, but you're an English major. You can we offer film studies as a minor for English majors. Watch old movies, write a paper, get an A, get your GPA up." I was like, great. First class I take was called like American, or just 4 directors, I think. It was Wells, Hitchcock, Wilder, and John Ford.
Yeah.
All right. First film I see in it is Billy Wilder's The Apartment.
Yeah.
All right. I'm blown away.
Right.
All right. Afterwards, the professor's talking about the movie, keeps talking about Billy Wilder, the writer-director. I go up to him after class. I'm like, look, I got a question. Like, you keep referring to him as a writer-director. I don't really know what that means. Like, I guess that means he wrote the movie. He's like, yeah. Well, what do you mean? He doesn't know like what that means. Like, that's how movies are made. Like, he wrote the screenplay, wrote all the dialogue, and then as the director, he makes the decision. Are we going to shoot color or black and white? Are we going to cast, Shirley MacLaine? All of the decisions that you saw on screen, the director makes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that's a job? Like, that's a fucking job that a person can have for their life? I had never given it enough thought to think that that was something that I could do.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Forget about writing novels. I'm gonna write screenplays, and I want to be a writer-director. And that's kind of how it started.
And was it, because I know, I'm sure you're used to, but I know like your work gets like compared, a lot to Woody Allen stuff because of New York, a very talky. Like, were there certain films of his that were an influence, or did that just kind of?
Without a doubt, my mom was a huge Woody Allen.
Okay.
So when my mom is probably back in high school with VHS, that's probably when I first saw Take the Money and Run, Bananas. You know, at that point, those were the kind of the Woody Allen comedies I was in.
I mean, I certainly think of because Sidewalks from New York has that documentary.
Well,
like
Sidewalks,
to
we
camera.
definitely looked at Husbands and Wives as our template.
Yeah.
Brothers McMullen, I looked at Hannah and her sisters.
Okay.
There's even, you know, and I do this sometimes, you know, I do it quite a bit. Actually, like, there's a sequence in Brothers McMullen that's almost a shot-for-shot little nod to, you know, Michael Caine running around Soho trying to cut off Barbara Hershey. We did the same thing in Brothers McMullen in the Village near Washington Square Park, where the character Anne is trying to cut off the oldest brother Jack.
Yeah.
So, like, if you look at those two sequences, they're kind of shot for shot.
Yeah.
You know, even in the Family McMullen, it was funny. Like, when I was writing Family McMullen, tonally, I wanted it to be more She's the One than Brothers McMullen.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be a little lighter and a little funnier. So, of course, I went back and I looked at a lot of my old She's the One notes, and there's a couple of even scenes that I never ended up using.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, I could probably pull some lines of dialogue from there, because I was 26 when I wrote that.
Yeah.
And these characters in their 20s, so at least I know it's authentic to someone that age.
Yeah.
But I also looked at Moonstruck again to remind myself of the tone. So, you know, there's a couple of moments in Family McMullen. The biggest one is when Pico Alexander is walking along the Brooklyn, the promenade there, and he kicks the can just like Cher did in Moonstruck.
Okay.
So we did kind of like, I like to periodically, and Public Morals had a bunch of nods to Mean Streets, The French Connection, you know, like, you know, we had 10 episodes to play with there. So each episode had a nod to one of those great New York City cop or gangster movies.
No, I mean, definitely Woody Allen and Scorsese come to mind, because, you know, a bunch of movies have, like, you know, you were talking about Stooley, that when you were trying to make sense, because you did have, like, Ash Wednesday had that crime tone, and then the TV stuff. Like, there's always, it's been a touch of that. You know, it's really interesting.
Yeah, anytime we try to go and do one of those, you know, they're for whatever reason, I guess because I'm known for doing the other thing. When we can't get it made, you know, you got to make money, you got to work. So we just immediately kind of pivot back to kind of what I'm known for. But we're trying to get Stooley made again now.
Okay, wow.
So who knows? Maybe 20 years later, it'll finally happen.
Well, you know, and it's interesting with, like, Family McMullen, and like, I even Public Morals, I guess, was the thing in your kind of career where it did feel like you started to look back at, like, time and period piece, and, like, you know, I don't know, you know, I know your father was a police officer, so I assume there's a connection to Public Morals there, because that would have been when it's like 60s. It's the same time frame when he would have been working. Or?
He worked in that division of Public Morals in the early 70s. I think from like 70 to 72. For a number of reasons, we decided to set the show in the early 60s. I think our show takes place in 62 or 63. You know, we kind of wanted to look at New York before narcotics showed up in such a big way. So that's kind of that decision. And it was also just research I was doing and things that I kind of got excited by. You know, like the Irish Mob was a big part of that show. And by the time you get into the 70s, the Irish Mob is turning into the Westies, and it's a very different version than the mob that we were playing with in our show. There's a guy named Oni Madden, who's a famous gangster on the West Side, who we modeled our Brian Dennehy character after. So.
Yeah, that's it. Because then you go, you know, it's around that same time you do Summer Days, Summer Nights, which, you know, reading, you know, A Kid from Marlboro Road, it, like, kind of put, you know, it feels connected there, that you were, had you started to, like, look at this period of your life of, you know, coming of age sort of stuff. I mean, A Kid from Marlboro Road is younger, like 12, and then Summer Days, Summer Nights is like 18, early 20s. But were you starting to find yourself, like, looking back at that period?
I was, you know, I mean, it's funny. So the book came from a very interesting place in that, you know, I was talking about that being in film school and finally getting exposed to a different type of movie, right? You know, one of the other films I saw was Truffaut's 400 Blows. And that's really one of the films where I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to tell those kind of stories. So I had a notion that I would do a coming of age film about, my group of friends in the, late 70s, early 80s, because like, we grew up, like I said, working class kids, like that latchkey generation. All of our parents worked. So in the summer, like we didn't
Right.
see an adult from the
Yeah.
time your parents left for work until it was time to be home for dinner. So we're like a gang of like unruly kids just doing whatever the fuck we wanted to do all day long. And there were so many great stories. I was like, that's a movie. And I thought like, all right, this will be my Stand By Me,
Right.
without the dead body,
Yeah.
right? More like a Stand By Me meets the 400 Blows. And I never got around to writing that script. When COVID hit,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this is the perfect time for me to sit down and write that screenplay. But we also did not know when we would be able to be back on set making movies. And because I was an English major and thought originally I was going to be a novelist, I was like, oh, well, maybe if I write the novel first, I've got some IP,
Yeah.
it'll make it easier to make that film. So that's when I was like, let me sit down and try my hand at a novel. And that's what this turned into.
Yeah. Had your like writing like habit or practice or whatever been kind of the same all these years? Because I mean, it's pretty incredible like output that you've been able to keep
Yeah.
yourself engaged with, even, like you see other people who also act and get big roles that kind of tend to get pulled in a certain
Yeah.
direction, but you've kind of like kept this part very much alive.
I have to admit, like, I recognize that I'm extremely lucky in that, like, I love to write.
Yeah.
Like, it is my best part of the day. I've already written for an hour this morning in
Yeah.
the hotel before
So
coming
you're like
here.
a typical like morning
I like
early writer? Yeah.
not early, like my sweet spot for my window is like 10 to 1,
Yeah.
3 hours before lunch.
Yeah.
And then, depending on, if I have to do whatever, that's typically the second half of the day. But if I don't have anything set up for the second day, or if I'm in a really good groove and I'm like, I don't, I'm lucky. Like if I get into the sweet spot, I mean, it's not the, maybe 20% or, a good day, 40% of what you're writing is any good.
Yeah.
But I can do a 6-hour run.
Yeah.
And just like, and love it. It's not 6 hours of good writing, but it's 6 hours of
Right.
productive time.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I do want to touch, like, because the acting thing is so interesting too, because had you thought of yourself at all as an actor prior? Like,
Never,
yeah.
never. Like when I take, so then I'm at Hunter College at
Yeah.
68th and Lexington N. And I take my first film directing class, right? I've
Okay.
taken these film theory classes where I got exposed to all these great movies. And I had a professor, Everett Asen, who I'm still in touch with today,
Yeah.
whose son now is a very successful screenwriter.
Okay.
Day one, he's like, all right, how many people here want to be a director? Everyone raises their hand. How many of you have any acting experience? Nobody raises their hand.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you expect to know how to work with actors if you've never spent one day in their shoes?
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do. Every class, you're the writer, you're the director, you two are the actors. We'll see you on Tuesday. You're going to put on a 3 to 5 minute play in front of the class.
Yeah.
First time I got picked was as an actor. I'd never acted before. I was terrified. I get up in front of the class, and halfway through that little 5-minute scene, the thing happens that people talk about.
Yeah.
I get the bug. I
Okay.
forget that I'm in front of my
Yeah.
classmates, and I am that character.
Yeah.
I loved it. And then from that moment on, I was like, well, I'm going to just put myself in every short film I
Right.
make. So that's what I did. And then when
Yeah.
I was writing McMullen, I was like, all right, well, I'll do the same thing here. And again, like, I didn't think I would ever be able to raise the money to make McMullen as a feature.
Yeah.
So part of the reason it's an ensemble with the three brothers was I knew, like, because I knew I wasn't paying the actors.
Yes, it was like weekend.
It's weekend, so
Yeah.
there's no guarantee that they'll show up. There's no
Yeah.
guarantee that they won't halfway through the shoot. They're like, look, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And the movie blows up. So I was like, if I have one subplot with me,
Yeah.
I can turn that into a short film, and at least I
Okay.
can go on
Yeah.
the festival circuit with that
That's
short
really
film.
interesting. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
like, everything has to have kind of like, I got to be able to walk away from the experience with something that's
Yeah.
going to further my career in some way.
And then before Saving Private Ryan, had you shot your third feature?
I
No Looking
did.
Back? Okay, so
Yeah.
you'd acted in, still like supporting roles in your films,
Yeah.
but you'd had those 3 films.
Yeah.
And did you feel personally like I can handle something bigger or step onto someone else's set? Like, what was the
After
like?
after No Looking Back, I felt confident that because the first two films, I'm kind of playing a version of myself.
Yeah,
right?
I think No Looking Back, like I was able to track that one down too, and I do think it's like a real step for you in the acting of the character playing somebody who's kind of, mostly not likable in a lot of it, but I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. I love that movie. I love the look of that movie.
I was only able to get this one on VHS, and I have a VHS player that I still keep around, and I watched it on VHS.
Oh my God!
But it is on DVD, but for some reason the DVDs are crazy expensive. I assume because Jon Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
It's like a collector's item for Jon Bon Jovi fans.
Classic, yeah.
But I really like. I thought this was such an interesting third movie from. Of you kind of like breaking out a bit from what you'd done, sort of in a similar world of She's the One in Brothers.
Well, it's funny, the other film that is the movie that that I saw in film school, that is like, I need to do this, like this is what I want to do, is Bogdanovich's Last Picture Show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, so No Looking Back is my attempt to do, life in a small town.
Yeah.
That his film is obviously much more of a bigger ensemble. I focus on these core kind of three characters. But that's one that I keep trying to revisit as a screenwriter. I haven't been able to. I think Beneath the Blue Suburban Skies, no, not really. That's more of a family kind of drama. But I have another script. Who knows, down the road if we get it made. But that's the other kind of North Star for me.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you've talked a lot about Saving Private Ryan, but and I do think it's interesting, to see you coming from this movie to that. But partly this is like just my own personal history and interest. My first job out of film school was with the writer-director John Herzfeld. I was his assistant.
Oh, really?
And so he directed
15 minutes. Yeah. And what did you work on?
It was in 2007. He had just shot a pilot for this cop show called SIS, Special Investigation Section.
Yeah.
And it ended up being released as like a TV movie. I can't remember the cable network at the time. It was a cable network that was more known for UFC fighting.
Yeah.
It was like the Man's Network. I can't remember the name of it.
I kind of remember that network. Yeah. I think my brother wrote on a show about a college football team on that network.
Oh,
it was called Spike?
Spike, yes, exactly. It was Spike. Yeah. I can't believe I forgot it. So then, that job was mostly like a writing assistant job after that.
Okay.
Where we were working on some of his scripts, some work for hire. And then we ended up best friends from college with Sylvester Stallone.
We
ended up shooting this doc about Stallone as he was making The Expendables. It became this whole production.
Yeah, they were very close because Stallone visited the set on 15 Minutes a couple of times. Which was very cool because again, Rocky's one of those
Rocky thing in the restaurant.
Yeah.
But I think because I don't
Funny
think
story about that.
Yeah.
Because that was right after Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel and I, who are still buddies, but we were really close then. That's the day he visited set.
Okay.
So my memory of the Stallone statue in that restaurant is me and Vin hanging out, talking underneath the Sly statue. So
God. I mean, because it was really, I hadn't watched that movie since the late 2000s when I was working for John, and I revisited it recently, and I think your performance is I think it's I don't know how you look at it. I think it's one of your more nuanced, interesting kind of performances. I don't know where a lot was Saving Private Ryan. You're part of a big ensemble, but now you're it's you and De Niro.
Yeah,
that's the movie.
I mean, look, I think I got so lucky, as an actor,
you go from Tom Hanks to De Niro,
and then
Dustin Hoffman.
with Dustin Hoffman. That's really, I think,
wild.
Whatever kind of actor I am today, I know those three experiences taught me, kind of how I do whatever it is that I do now. I know my limitations as an actor. I know what I do.
Well, you've had that. I've heard you say this before that even Private Ryan, you were or your agents, or I don't know if the producers were looking at you for the Tom Sizemore role, but you were kind of a little, you thought that may be too much to like bite off for your first role outside yourself. And so, you know, you had this other role that was much more the Brooklynite.
Yeah.
Like
my agents were like,
fit.
you know, take a look at the part of the Sarge. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, okay, I just don't know if I'm a good enough actor to play that part at this point.
Do you feel like it now?
Oh yeah, I could totally do it now. Yeah.
But again, that's interesting to like think back.
Yeah.
You know?
But also like so much of it was, you know, not just ability, it's confidence and comfort, right? You know, like if you don't believe that you could inhabit that character in that part, then you can't.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like at that point in my career, I was only comfortable trying to step into parts that I felt that I could do a good job for the director, right?
Yeah.
So the part of Ryben in Private Ryan is like, he's a fucking wise ass from Brooklyn. I was like, I can do this in my sleep.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's easy, but like, I know who that guy is.
Yeah.
You know, kind of that's so that like I just said, well, put me in for that. You know, if you're gonna put me up for anything.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, thank God I got that call a couple of months later, because that changed my life. I mean, that changed my life in that, you know, the exposure to be a part of a film that will live on in film history. Like I got one on my resume.
Come up to you about that movie all the time.
More than anything else. More than anything else.
Yeah.
But like, you know, that was my graduate film school.
Yeah.
Like I got, you know, I mean, Steven, I said to him on day one, is it okay? Can I like hang out over your shoulder and watch you do your thing?
And Vin Diesel was like at that time was more kind of on the actor director side too,
without
right?
a doubt. He had made his film multifacial.
Yeah.
You know, as was Adam Goldberg. Adam Goldberg had written and directed and acted in a movie.
Yeah.
So we were all like the three of us.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you know, taking notes every day. Yeah.
Yeah. When you look back on that cast and like the group, it's pretty incredible. And then I mean, how often had you acted, you know, because I did want to like my favorite parts of Family McMullen. I like a lot of it, but I have to say my favorite parts are you and Tracy Ellis Ross.
Oh yeah.
Like just like sometimes two people like have something or capture it at that time, and those scenes are like so fun and kind of like delightful.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that is rare, or do you feel like it happens
for me
more
as an actor?
Yeah.
It's almost never happened.
Yeah.
Where I immediately felt such ease and kind of freedom to play. And I know she felt the same way. Like we finished our first scene is I think the first scene we might have in the movie together. And after like 2 takes, we kind of looked at one another like, oh, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like this is fun.
Yeah.
So then moving forward from there, we just kept trying to play with the scenes, improvising, trying to find a little bit more every time. So much so that I'm in the process of writing a feature for she and I to do together.
I was gonna say, I hope you're doing something. That's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very about fun. 2 people who have never been married in their 50s who kind of wake up together on New Year's Day after a drunken one-night stand and decide, well, we're in our 50s, maybe we should finally give a relationship a shot. It's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah.
And then what else do you have? Like, have you gone back to pick up like novel writing? Or are you thinking about a second book? Or?
So I'm right now. I just got the notes back from the publisher for the second book.
Yeah.
So I see A Kid from Marlboro Road as the first in a trilogy.
Okay.
So the second book is called The Marlboro Road Gang.
And does it still follow kind? Because
same exact.
Marlboro Road is very, very much from reading your Wikipedia page or whatever. It's like it definitely could fall under like auto fiction or like pulling.
It's absolutely.
And so, are you still kind of the main? That kid is the main character, or is it?
It is the same character. It's the same family.
Yeah.
It's probably, I would say like the book is probably 60% pulled from my life, 40%, me just taking a scenario and having fun. And that's like, I no interest in writing sort of a memoir. I like writing fiction. The second book is probably even more like 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah. But still definitely pulling from situations and scenarios that happened to my family and me.
Yeah. And is your next movie, have you shot at the Goff movie? Is that your next?
That'll come out.
Okay, so that's been shot.
That shot. It's called Finnegan's Foursome. We shot it in Ireland. We made that movie with Paramount, but then during the merger,
Oh, yeah.
they kind of got put on like a little bit of pause, I guess. But now it'll come out at this year's Tribeca Film Festival in
Okay.
June, and then come out. And again, like we don't even know what the theatrical looks
Right.
like in June.
Yeah.
You know what I
Or
mean?
what the studio.
Yeah.
Who
Who
knows?
knows? Who knows?
But yeah, that's interesting. Had you thought about doing a sports movie before?
I have a script that I wrote with a good buddy of mine, a guy named Mike McCarrow, who we went to high school together. He's a big sports columnist for the New York Post. So we wrote a Hoosiers-esque basketball script based on a true story about a small Catholic high school on Long Island called St. Agnes. That was sort of an underachieving, a small school that overachieves.
Yeah.
And they lose the state championship to a school called Bishop Lachlan.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is the 2 point guards on those 2 teams are Mark Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And the point guard for the St. Agnes team is Billy Donovan.
Okay, yeah.
The Bulls.
Wow.
So, so great script. And, hopefully one day we'll get that movie made.
Yeah, I hope so. Well,
Yeah.
well, Ed, thanks so much
Thank you,
for
man.
taking all this time.
This was a great talk.
Incredible.
A lot of shit
Yeah.
we covered.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, dude.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Yeah.